It's the recap for Sunday, July 21st, 2024. I'm Daniel Montoya Jr. for General Effect Media. Yesterday, we saw all of the world-class drum corps meeting for the first time in San Antonio, Texas at the Alamo Dome for the DCI Southwestern Championship. And we've had some results that we thought were going to happen. We definitely had some surprises and some fun facts and trivia that definitely set us up for an exciting last half of the summer. And that's right, we are basically, as I mentioned on the roller coaster analogy, we've all gone this way. I think we're all at the bottom now, and now it's just nothing but loop-de-loops and inversions and spins and whatnot. And so let's not get carried away, and let's get right into it. First, I want to talk about what I got right and what I got wrong in my predictions for how San Antonio was going to come out. Yes, 2 cents to Colin Cowherd for what Daniel got right and what Daniel got wrong. So I predicted that the top three was going to be Bluecoats, Boston, and Blue Devils. And well, I got 1 out of 3 right. That's right. The Bluecoats came out on top with Blue Devils in second and Boston in third. It was close, but nevertheless, I was wrong. I then just said that it would be Crown, Phantom, Santa Clara, Mandarins, and Blue Stars in the 4th through 8th slot. And guess what? Your boy was right. Crown, Phantom, Santa Clara, Mandarins, and Blue Stars. However, this is where we get into a little bit more of wonkier predictions. I said that it would be the Colts and then the Cavaliers in 9 and 10. However, it ended up being the Cavaliers, then the Colts in 9 and 10. I accurately predicted Troopers in 11th, but said Hometown Cookin' was going to come through with the X-Man coming in 12th. When after all was said and done, it was the Madison Scouts coming in handedly, clearly in 12th place, which threw off the rest of my predictions for 13 through 15. I said Blue Knights, Pacific Crest, and Scouts would round out 13 through 15, when in fact it was Crossman, Blue Knights, and Pat Crest in that top 15. When it came to captions, I said that, well, the Bluecoats were going to win brass, they were going to win GE, and they were going to win visual, with the Boston Crusaders winning color guard and percussion. And while the Bluecoats did come in second in brass, and it was close, Blue Devils, in fact, won brass, Boston winning color guard, Boston winning percussion, Blue Devils winning visual, and Bluecoats winning visual, and Bluecoats handedly winning general effect by 0.625. We're going to go over why that is significant in a little bit, but let's talk about neighborhoods and how these scores all came out and how people like to use the term slotting. It's just it's an oversimplified excuse for people, number one, saying they already know who's going to win, which they don't. And number two, once you're in a slot, you're slotted there. No, it's neighborhoods. Neighborhoods the right way. So when we look at the scores, we can see that now we're getting into neighborhoods, honestly, of 1 to 2 cores, with one neighborhood and only one having 3 drum corps in that particular neighborhood. Bluecoats are in a neighborhood all by themselves. 93.025 is what they scored all by themselves. There is a neighborhood of competition in second and third between the Blue Devils and the Boston Crusaders, 91.875, 91.850. Very close. Then we have Carolina Crown and Phantom Regiment in their own neighborhood, 89.925 and 89.625. 0.3 of difference between the Phantom Regiment and the Carolina Crown. And then we go into the next neighborhood, the Vanguard Mandarins neighborhood, 87.525, 87.225. I would say that spread definitely carried by the percussion caption, which we'll talk about shortly, but it was a doozy of a gap between those. Other neighborhood, Blue Stars and Cavaliers, 84.938 to an 84.675. All very close. And then we have an island of sorts for the Colts, 83.350, and then another island for the Troopers at 81.875. Then we get into the 3 drum corps island. The most competitive island right now is between 3 drum corps. It could expand to 4, but based off of the results here in San Antonio, it is a 3 drum corps island with Madison Scouts at the top, 80.050, Crossman next with a 79.925, and then the Blue Knights with a 79.1. That's our most competitive island because there are 3 drum corps fighting for it. Then we get into the next island of sorts between the 15th and 16th place drum corps, Pacific Crest with a 77.375, Spirit of Atlanta with a 77.350. It is a testament to Pacific Crest core performers production that they were able to perform so early and their score was so high and it held up long enough. If the Pacific Crest were to perform later, Would they have placed higher? Possibly. But this placement does mean that Pacific Crest is now in an entirely different group of 3, which will set their performance order. Unfortunately, the Madison Scouts are now also in a different group of 3. They are now in the 10, 11, 12 grouping. So Pacific Crest got their work cut out for them. This performance slot did not do them any favors whatsoever here in San Antonio. Now, you can look at the scores and you can say like, oh, that drum corps did this, or oh, that drum corps did that. But you can really look into the captions to find out the inner workings of how this all broke down. And so I'd like to focus a little bit on caption strength and captious weakness. And by that, I mean, what captions were outscoring or scoring where they needed to, or what captions were kind of weighing them down. For example, I'm going to look at the blue coats. Let's start at the top. Blue coats, pretty much first and second all the way through, with the exception of the color guard ranking. For the second big show in a row, Broken Arrow being the first, they are 4th in color guard. Now, that doesn't mean they're bad. First, second, third are all in the top 4. It just means that right now, what the judges are seeing in either performance, content, achievement, etc., they're a 4th place color guard. That's the outlier in comparison to the rest of Blue Coat's captions. If we go next to the Blue Devils, the outlier is visual analysis. Weird for a drum corps that continuously challenges for the Zengali in terms of winning the visual caption. They are 4th in visual analysis. They are, however, 1st in brass. 1st in brass. So shout out to Scott Stewart, who's got to be happy about that. I did say there was the potential that Phantom could come out and beat the Blue Devils in brass. Right now, that prediction is probably the hottest take that I have. But wait till there'll be more later. All right, if we move down to the Boston Crusaders, right now the color guard and the percussion are their strongest captions, both finishing in 1st, with their weakest caption being visual performance, and that has them in 5th. They are not a top 3 drum corps in visual performance, according to how the results came out on Saturday. If we go down to 4th place in the Carolina Crown right now, their color guard, the strongest caption in the drum corps, placing in 2nd right now, and it's a tale as old as time. The percussion caption is the weakest caption for the Carolina Crown right now in 6th. Luckily, it's not in double digits as it had been a long time ago. So 6th, an improvement, a definite improvement over the Carolina Crown percussion section that we have grown to know and love. But still, regardless, that is a weakness. The Phantom Regiment, currently in 5th right now, a hair of sorts behind the Carolina Crown. 2nd in visual analysis. That is their strongest caption right now. 2nd in visual analysis. Their weakest caption, visual performance, in 6th place. In 6th place, visual performance. So yes, definitely some things that are keeping them down, keeping them from getting closer to Crown, and Crown, some things keeping them from falling even closer to Phantom Regiment. We get to 6th place with the Santa Clara Vanguard. Their strength, surprise, surprise, it's the percussion. However, we're seeing a number there in ranking that we're not used to seeing from a Paul Rennick Santa Clara Vanguard drumline. 4th place. They are currently 4th place. That is their highest scoring caption. Their lowest scoring caption, the brass caption. 8th place. Vanguard, 8th place in percussion. So that is definitely keeping the competition close with the next corps, the Mandarins. Percussion doing their part to separate them. Well, that reminds me, Mandarin's highest scoring caption right now, 4th in feet, visual performance. 4th in feet for a 7th place drum corps. Their lowest performing caption, percussion, 9th place. 9th place. Now, if you are going toe-to-toe with a group, you don't want to be separated by 1.5 in percussion, as the Mandarins' percussion were from the Santa Clara Vanguard. Now, if you had told me, oh, Vanguard beat Mandarins by 1.5 in percussion, I would have assumed, of course they did. Vanguard won percussion, right? They were 1st. Nope, that was not how it came out. No, they are 1 place ahead of Mandarins overall, and outright, they're not in the same universe in percussion based on the way, the power of the tenths, and we'll talk about that in just a little bit. We move to the Blue Stars right now in 8th place. Blue Stars are highest caption, 7th place in brass. Their lowest caption, percussion, 11th, almost out of finals. Blue Stars been hit or miss right now in terms of percussion. Their ranking having them in 11th, which is interesting because they had tied with the Cavaliers in percussion for highest score in rankings. Cavaliers currently in 9th, their highest caption, percussion, 7th place. Just like Vanguard and Mandarins, you don't want to have a 7 and 11 disparity if you're trying to beat a drum corps. So right now, Blue Stars 11th, Cavaliers 7th percussion. 7th percussion is keeping them close to the Blue Stars. When their color guard and brass have them in 10th, which is right around where they're scoring, but those are their lowest captions right now, brass and color guard for the Cavaliers. And then the Colts in 10th place overall. Highest scoring caption, 8th. Good for them, good for them. Outperforming the Mandarins and Blue Stars, 2 drum corps in front of them. Their music analysis, however, is in 11th. Not a great placing. That is their lowest placing caption, which is probably what's keeping them where they are at and keeping them down from getting higher than when they were like. Then we get to Troopers, who are in 11th place right now, and they're not necessarily in a neighborhood of this. It's just a different page turn. The Troopers right now, their strongest captions, music analysis and percussion in 10th. Good for them. Their lowest caption, feat, visual performance in 14th place, which is also probably why this is keeping them in an 11th place neighborhood. Colts and Troopers have these captions that are kind of weighing them down a little bit and keeping them where they're at, keeping them from moving and competing against the Blue Stars and Cavaliers. We get into 12th place in the Madison Scouts right now. They are a pretty consistent drum corps right now with their highest caption scores of 11th place over the Troopers. Visual analysis, color guard, visual ranking, and brass. All those scored higher than the Troopers, as well as visual performance. Visual performance, Madison was in 12th. Troopers were in 14th. What's keeping the Madison Scouts down, however? It's percussion. Right now, their percussion ranks 18th. 18th place. Nothing else needs to be said about that. Gotta fix it. Gotta fix it, ladies and gentlemen. The Crossman in 13th place right now. Their highest caption, 11th place in visual, in feet. Their lowest captions, what's hurting them, percussion and brass, 15th place. 15th place. They scored higher overall than they did to those captions. Blue Knights in 14th place. Their highest scoring caption was one of the general effect in 11th. Their lowest scoring caption, 17th in color guard. 17th in color guard. And then rounding out the top 15, the Pacific Crest, reminder, playing so early. I think they immediately started after the banner was over. Their highest scores, general effect 2 and 14, color guard in 14, music analysis in 14. However, visual performance and overall visual analysis in 17th place. So you can see in the Troopers through Pacific Crest in the 11th through 15th ranking that there are a few captions that are really keeping them down. As we mentioned, visual for Troopers, percussion for Madison Scouts, percussion and brass for the Crossman, color guard for Blue Knights, visual for Pacific Crest. Those things are what is causing this jumble of neighborhoods and flip-flops, and not necessarily for the Troopers, but the Troopers can be closer to 10th place if they fix a few things, and the Madison Scouts could more solidify their 12th place ranking if they get a little bit more help on the percussion side. If the percussion had scored in the same kind of ranking or score area as the rest of their drum corps, they would have only been up about 0.55, which would have put them at an 80.5 or 80.6, which would have been a comfortable 0.7 above the Blue Knights, still over a point away from Troopers, but more breathing room above 13th place. So percussion definitely an issue. All the drum corps, with the exception of like the Blue Coats, the color guard is their weakest. But again, it's like splitting hairs, I imagine. In fact, if we go back and look at the scores of how that all broke down, you'll see that, as I check notes, color guard right now, Blue Coats are 18.1. That's in 4th. Blue Devils 18.2. That is in 3rd. 18.3 from Crown. They're only 0.2 away from 3rd. They are just 0.5 away from winning. So it's not that the color guard's bad. It's just that the color guards of the top 4 are so good. Let's talk a little bit about how I keep talking about powers of tenths and whatnot. And I'm going off of my experience judging in the spring, judging with indoor marching band, indoor percussion, indoor color guard. I don't judge indoor color guard whatsoever. But when we talk about the power of the tenths, and when you hear me say something like Santa Clara percussion is in another galaxy than Mandarins, we're talking about the descriptor terms for the spread. When you see a drum corps 1 to 2 tenths away, either up or down from another drum corps, we consider that to be comparable, very comparable. The idea of any given night, this could change. Like you could perform 10 times in a row and it'd be 5 and 5. It'd be 50-50. So if you're 1 to 2 tenths away from a group, there's hope. You're very close. It could be a bad night, could be a great night, whatever. When we get into 3 to 4 tenths, we start talking about minor differences. And minor in terms of like, well, they just do this a little better, or this is just not quite as good, or, well, this was just a little bit more well thought out. Minor differences, not something that can't be overcome, but it's definitely like, well, you should take a look at this. When we get into 5 to 7 tenths, and we were talking about the 0.7 difference between, or rather 0.6 difference in the general effect caption overall between Blue Coats and Blue Devils. 0.6 falls into this 5-7, which we consider definitive. It's like there is clearly a difference, a marked difference in, it's whatever you want to say, between this group and this group. And right now, from Broken Arrow to today, we are saying, the judging community rather, is saying there are definitive differences in general effect between the Blue Coats and Blue Devils. And then if you get into 8 tenths plus, point, etc., or 1.5, it is significant differences. That's why I say it's like someone's playing baseball and someone's playing pickleball, right? It's not even tennis and pickleball. It's baseball and pickleball. It's football and basketball. Like two sports that they just don't work together. There's skills and athleticism involved. But regardless, and you see these spreads between like a first place group and an 8th place or a 12th, or like you see multiple groups. But like I said, when I was mentioning the Vanguard and Mandarin's percussion, or when I was mentioning, I forget which other drum corps I was looking at, or when you look at the Carolina Crown in Boston, there are these larger spreads in captions that they add up and they start to count to why things are not happening the way you want them to. So yeah, that's why when I talk about these neighborhoods and say minor, significant, comparable, astronomical, and that you can check the back of the WGI sheets for that. I've never seen a DCI judging sheet, so I'm not sure if the boxes have similar descriptor terms or if the windows are similar, the ranges. I would be interested to find out how right or wrong I am in regards to that, or just uninformed. We'll just go with uninformed on that. So last thing I want to do is just give a little bit of fun facts or trivia, if you will, about what we witnessed Saturday and what this potentially means for the rest of the drum corps season. So yesterday, the Blue Coats scored a 93.025, which is the new highest score for DCI San Antonio. It's a new record, which was set last year by the Blue Devils. Now, this is the first San Antonio win for the Blue Coats since 2019. And if you're trying to remember what show it was and what they ended up placing by the end of the year, it was the self-fulfilling prophecy. Now, there are folks like myself saying that this will be an undefeated season for the Blue Coats. And I can't see another drum corps beating them. I'm not saying it won't be close. I think that the Blue Devils and potentially Boston have the will, they have the momentum to possibly close the gap, but I don't see Blue Coats losing another show, barring a Ebola outbreak or something like that. If they were to be undefeated and win the championship at the end of the season, this would be the first non-Blue Devils undefeated season since 2002. It's the Cavaliers with their innovative and iconic, groundbreaking, historical, amazing show frameworks. That's right. Since then, it's only been the Blue Devils who have had undefeated shows. Somebody asked in the Slack about, what about the Cadets when they won? The Cavaliers were beating the Cadets pretty consistently until the back half of the season before the Cadets pulled away and won with the best BOA band show ever to win drum corps. That's right. I said it. Here's some other notes. Speaking of the Cadets are the last drum corps to win 2 championships, or more than one, since the Blue Devils began their dominance. Now, the Cadets won in 05. I'm sorry, I was mistaken. I mean, 05 is a band show. 11 is the ultimate band show. 11, Angels and Demons, that's a BOA band show. 05, The Zone, was an innovative, futuristic look at what band was going to become. So I misspoke, but I kind of didn't. Angels and Demons was the best BOA show to win DCI. And if Inferno had won, that would have been the new best BOA band show to win DCI. But luckily it didn't. So 11 and 05 Cadets, they've won 2. Every other drum corps not named the Blue Devils that have won since that dominance began have only won 1. Now, if you go back and consider Cavaliers 2006, I kind of lump that together with the Cavaliers' dominance of the early 2000s, because it was 2000, yes, sure, with the Cadets, 01, 02, 03 was Blue Devils, 04 was the Cavaliers, 05 was the Cadets, 06 was the Cavaliers. So I consider 06 the end of that era. So I'm not going to consider that, but if we go that far back, Cavaliers won in 06, haven't won since. Regiment won in 08, haven't won since. Crown 2013, almost won again, but didn't. SCV 2018, well, it's the most recent. So if the Bluecoats were to win, now that would give them the 2 in that span of Blue Devils dominance. So it'll be a blue dominance, but not the Blue Devils. Now, we talked a little bit about the 12th place drum corps Saturday night. That's the Madison Scouts, one of the 4 horsemen, one of the OGs, the founding fathers of drum corps. If they are to make finals at the end of this year, they will do it for the first time since 2017. Correct me if I'm wrong. That's the Last Man Standing show, which fooled us because many of us thought there would be a female or woman at the end of that show. It would make total sense, right? But that didn't happen. And then they waited a few years and then became gender neutral. But regardless, if they make it this year and your boy's pulling for them, and I'll admit my biases, I'm a Scouts homer. I'm a Scouts stan. First drum corps I ever saw live was 1993, the Madison Scouts, when they performed, are you listening, Scott? The Superior Strawberry Soup in 1993. I'm trolling on purpose. Since 93, Scouts stan, Scouts fan, Scouts designer, and back to fan again. It's all cyclical. I'm pulling for them to get 12th, but I also fully realize that it's a tough battle and it's still a long season. Madison Scouts hoping their 10-minute show will stand up in comparison to the other groups that are maybe doing a little bit more, a little bit longer, maybe a little bit more difficulty, but we'll see. We'll see. It is oft said in Texas circles that excellence is the ultimate form of effect. I disagree. Excellence as an effect is an important part. You got to march it well, but you got to have a pretty good show. You got to be designed pretty well. Show me some lasers. It's drum corps. We should be seeing lasers and jetpacks and all that kind of stuff. And we'll talk about all that later on in the end of the season wrap up of how only a small handful of drum corps are actually doing that kind of thing. Regardless, we're going to be back with 2 episodes this week. So this is the first one. I wanted to just get all my San Antonio thoughts out of the way now. We will have another episode this Thursday where we won't be recapping much, if anything. I know there's a few shows, the McKinney show, and we're beginning the Swamp Tour, and that's always fun for folks. But we'll be discussing the 3 big shows that are taking place this fall, this weekend. Boy, I'm already in marching band mode. This weekend with Murfreesboro, Atlanta, and Winston-Salem. We'll start to see all the groups come together again, and then they meet up in Allentown for a 2-night show, and then we get to semifinals and prelims and finals. I said it out of order. So it's exciting. It's exciting, but we can see the end. The end is near. Changes everything. Bluecoats they're gonna win. They're gonna win. I stand by my prediction that I think the Bluecoats will eventually win brass. I think they'll do it. I think because brass and percussion, all these captions are an average over the 3 nights. I think Bluecoats do it. I think Boston's going to win guard and percussion. There's just no question. So I think we're going to see 3 captions for the Bluecoats, 2 captions for the Boston Crusaders. That's what I don't know that that's going to change much, short of in a Ebola breakout. So anyway, let us know what you think about how San Antonio went out, what you think about my thoughts, what you think about the breakdowns. Please keep all these comments coming, especially those of you that are educating me more in the world of like color guard or other things that I'm not as aware of. I fully acknowledge that color guard is at the bottom of my expertise, and then visual. Some would say also music, but those people can go touch grass. Is that right? Did the kids say that right? Anyway, regardless, let us know in the comment section down below what you think about all of this, what you think about Saturday, how you think next week's going to come out, how you think the rest of the season's going to come out. And if you would like to get some real nerdy written stuff, please go to generaleffect.media to subscribe to our Substack. You'll get articles written by our content creators, as well as a reminder when a new episode of the recap drops. Of course, please like, subscribe, and leave a comment for this so that we can increase engagement. We can beat the algorithm. We can shoot this into other people. Share it if you'd like. Look what this bozo said, or look what this bozo said, right? Any one of those things, would appreciate it. And if we could play a Sarah McLachlan song without getting copyright strike, our writers, why don't you adopt a writer by donating to Ko-fi, Ko-fi right here. All donations go to our content creators, not me, not included. We just take away the administrative fees that are taken care of by Ko-fi and PayPal. Geez, so many administrative fees. And those go straight to our writers. So anything you can help out, even $1. We had someone donate $1. We've had someone done, maybe $5. $5. We've had some people donate a little bit more. I don't know where that flag went. Anyway, all those things will be in the description down below. Thumbs up, subscribe, notification bell, make a donation, subscribe to General Effect on Substack. And we'll see you back in a few days for the next episode of The Recap.